welterweight bout between Gunnar Nelson and Bryan Barberena, plus 392 for Bryan Barberena, minus 392 for Gunnar Nelson. Over under set at 2.5 rounds, plus 128 for the over, minus 128 for the under. Bryan Barberena stepping in here for Daniel Rodriguez. Not quite on short notice, but not full camp for him. An interesting line, if I'm going to be honest, because Gunnar Nelson has never really done it for me. I don't know if it's just his style. He's got that karate type stance on the feet. Obviously wants to get to the ground. He wants to get your back, wants to grapple with you. That's where he does his work the best. He's got 13 submissions on his record. But I don't know, man. Like, we all know Bryan Barberena's takedown defense is pretty trash. And he really doesn't have a great ground game. But on the feet, I think there's a big, discrepancy, if we're going to be honest. I mean, look at the stats between both guys. Gunnar Nelson lands 1.83 strikes per minute. Bryan Barberena, 5.92. The problem with that is Gunnar Nelson just needs to get you down once, and it's probably going to be around, especially with Bryan Barberena. Barberena showed in his last fight he could survive for a decent amount of time when he got on the ground with RDA, but he's still the man. Still doing the damn thing.
I was at that fight.
That's right, you were. So what did you think when he hit the ground? Were you like, it's pretty much over, or were you giving him any kind of chance? If it hits the ground in this one, think he could survive, or do you think he could get back up?
I wanted to give him a chance against RDA to survive, not win, because of the size discrepancy. Because RDA, bounces from 155 to 170. Not the biggest 170 guy in there, but yeah, man, the ground game. If it weren't for Gunnar Nelson's grappling and being a stud on the ground, if he was just an average grappler, I'd probably be all over Bryan Barberena here as an underdog. He has the good volume. I think that's where he's gonna steal rounds or win this fight, is if he can just put this pace on Nelson, that Nelson doesn't get any room or any chance to shoot a good takedown or get this thing to the ground. Because, I mean, Gunnar's not going to go out there and just wrestle you like with this insane, explosive double legs or anything. Like, he'll work the fight to the ground, but man, if he can't do that, I just don't see, he's not going to stand and out volume or out strike Bryan Barberena here. But it's a big ask for Bryan Barberena, a guy with notoriously not so good takedown defense, to keep it on the fight here too. I mean, Gunnar Nelson, the one thing that you could hang on to if you're going for Bryan Barberena here is that he's 35 years old and he fights once every year, sometimes every 2 years. Yeah. So it's not like he's super active. I know he's obviously probably training and stuff, but it's not like he's in there beating up on a bunch of people often. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really comfortable on either side of this fight from a betting standpoint. Should be interesting to see if Gunnar can get it to the ground, though, because if he does, I think he gets the win. I think a submission's obviously, very possible if this thing hits the mat. But if he struggles with the takedown, it'll get interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised he couldn't finish his last fight against Takashi Sato.
Right.
He had so much control time on the ground. And, I mean, at minus almost 400, who the hell is laying that? Like, you got to have some real confidence in my boy Gunnar Nelson and some really bad things to say about Bryan Barberena. Bryan Barberena been around for a while. I mean, so is Gunnar Nelson, but the guy's experienced. He's been in there with some really solid guys. I mean, Leon Edwards, Colby Covington, Vicente Luque. Granted, lost all three of those, but
yeah,
you look at both guys, neither of their wins are like anything to write home about. But their losses are pretty respectable.
I was going to say they have better losses than they do wins.
Yeah, right. Whenever they face someone like pretty good, they lose, but they'll beat the guys that they're supposed to beat for the most part, unless you're Bryan Barberena going against Jason Witt. But
that
was a bad loss. I don't know. I mean, probably Gunnar Nelson by sub if you like Gunnar Nelson. Bryan Barberena by decision probably, or by knockout.
I wish he had more power.
Yeah,
if he had more power. That's a game changer in this one.
That is a big game changer because he's more of that volume guy. I mean, he almost lands like 6 significant strikes per minute, and his knockouts are kind of like accumulation of damage. Like
Yeah.
he put it on Robbie Lawler to get him out of there.
Yep.
So yeah, that's tough because if you're going against Gunnar Nelson, like how much volume can you get off before you get taken down? I don't think his takedowns are that strong though. That's what really scares me. Like for betting on him, like he's not like this really athletic dude that can just blast double to get you. He's kind of got to pick a single leg and
Yep.
ride the pipe and everything. But yeah, I think Gunnar Nelson probably wins, but not touching that price.
Agree.